buildings all over the world that were built thousands of years ago. Members of many ancient civilizations were able to build amazing structures, the level of which is admired even in the 21st century. Huge structures have been built over the centuries in Asia, Australia, Africa, and South America. People from those years were able to transport hundreds of tons of stones and process them with incredible precision. Looking at all these structures, it is worth considering how and why ancient people constructed such structures. Interestingly, members of many ancient cultures reported that they used the help of divine beings who came to them from heaven and borrowed mysterious artifacts to facilitate the construction of such structures. Usually the former community is proud of their books and wants to show them off to others. But old people often argued that they would not have been able to build such sophisticated structures on their own, and had created them with the help of the gods. Was it just myths and legends? Or whether our ancestors actually used extraordinary technology donated to them by divine teachers? One of the most interesting buildings is located in today's Peru, where the Inca civilization developed thousands of years ago. The mysterious, pre-Columbian structures of Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo are astonishing at the level of advancement. These remarkable fortresses and wall complexes consist of hundreds of incredibly matched stones weighing up to 350 tons. Megaliths were transported from quarries several kilometers away, and then, without the use of mortar or advanced tools, they were processed in such a way that the stone walls looked like matching puzzles. The enigmatic structures also contain symmetrical cuts and lumps cut straight from the rock. Looking at these fascinating walls, it is worth looking for answers to the questions of who, how and why these buildings were built in the past, and whether the Indian legends of helping gods have a grain of truth in them. Sacsayhuaman is located just north of Cusco. The building consists of 3 megalith walls arranged one behind the other. The stones necessary for the construction were exported from distant places, and they weigh up to 150 tons. This record 9 by 5 by 4 meter stone weighs as much as 361 tons. The precision with which the stones were joined, matched to each other, and yet it was done without the use of today's machines or even mortar, is shocking. When the Spanish captivators saw Sacsayhuaman with their own eyes, they could not understand how humans were able to create these structures, so they attributed their authorship to demons. The Ollantaytambo fortress is also not far from Cuzco and is full of stone walls and amazing andesite carved structures. Ollantaytambo, just like in Sacsayhuaman, there are several such walls consisting of stones weighing up to 100 tons. The stones were mysteriously transported up the hill and then processed. In addition to the walls in Ollantaytambo, there are also structures where you can see symmetrical cuts, and prism-shaped lumps were cut from the nearby large rock. One from the top and the other from the center of the rock. When you look at these unusual structures, you get the impression that they were built using advanced technology that the builders had long ago. The only question is who and how built it all. It is most often assumed that the stone walls were built by the Incas about 1,000 years ago. An architecture professor who studied these structures proposed an explanation according to which the stones were transported by means of ramps. And the unusual connections were the result of modeling the stones with hammers. The Incas themselves, however, claimed that the buildings were erected before they conquered these areas and adapted them for their own use by adding new layers. They proudly told the Spaniards how they could build other structures, but in these two cases they stated that the buildings were erected with the help of the gods. The Incas did not use the wheel, making the long transport of rocks unlikely. The Spanish chronicler Garcilaso de Vega tells an interesting story that one of the kings wanted to match the builders of these buildings and decided to transport one huge boulder from a distant quarry. According to reports, the stone was pulled by 20,000 Indians who had to cross the side of the slope. What was the effect of this? At one point, the boulder slipped into the abyss and crushed many people. It can be seen, therefore, that the Incas themselves had a problem with the transport of 300 tons of stones. And the problematic connection is also their connection and the completely incomprehensible cutting out of geometric solids. Perhaps it is worth mentioning who and how, according to the Incas, erected these unusual buildings. According to Inca records, Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo were built by their former ancestors, but they used the help of the god Huiracocha during the construction. This mysterious teacher descended from heaven in a shiny object and lent them a mysterious artifact called a golden wedge that supposedly magically softens the stone. In addition, Huiracocha borrowed a device that made large stones move through the air with the help of sonorous melodies. Interestingly, similar accounts of stone blocks moved by sound can be found in dozens of other cultures around the world. Did the builders Sacsayhuaman and Ollantaytambo actually use the technological devices by an extraterrestrial, or did they independently erect these structures using levers and ramps and titanic work? Why the Incas did not want to show off their achievements before the combatators and why they told stories about the help of the gods. Looking at the sophistication of a building, it is not difficult to say that there may be a grain of truth in the stories of divine technology. And how do you think? Show off your opinion in the comments. In the following episodes, we will recount the stories of some extraordinary teachers from outer space. Encourage subscribing to the channel while waiting for the next episodes of Space Stories.